Someone has knocked on our door this evening and stepped across the threshold as one of our house guests. He's crossing over from the normal world into our haunted house. Welcome to the Looks Creepy Cool podcast, part of Haunted House Fear Fest. I'm your host, Renee, and tonight I'm joined by Dan Lester, creator of the horror game Deadly Footprints from Monkeys Might Puke, nominated for Best Horror Game at the 2025 Haunted House Fear Fest Festival. Deadly Footprints is a top-down 2D horror game that traps players in a snow-covered maze hunted by a deranged killer who follows every step you take and every footprint you leave behind. Now together, Dan and I will wander room by room through the haunted house and uncover what makes this game so creepy cool. Let's step inside. Hi, Dan. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show.
Of course. So we are going to enter the creepy kitchen. And this is where you tell the watchers of the house, and the watchers, I mean the audience, like your ingredient of fear. So with Deadly Footprints, you turn snow and footprints are really those two combined is like beauty and calm, but you flipped it into horror. So tell us more about that, how that came about.
You know, the scene at the end where the boy is being chased through the maze. And I just thought that would be a really interesting game mechanic. That was pretty much the first thing I got that I figured out how to do when I started making the game was I figured out how I could make a game where you leave footprints when you walk and how there could be an enemy who only walks places where you've walked. And then the whole game was just kind of built around that. And just the idea of someone who's constantly following you.
So is your ingredient of fear tension building or isolation?
I think tension building, I've always been a big fan of suspense, like in movies or in books. Something where there has to be like a definite threat where you understand what the danger is, even if you don't necessarily know what the threat is or why it's there. Like Michael Myers in the Halloween films, you don't really understand his motivation, but you know how dangerous he is. That kind of thing.
Wow. So I would imagine you watched a ton of horror movies when you were younger, or no?
Yeah, I did back then, and I still do now. It's actually one of the things that me and my wife have in common is that we both like to watch horror movies. Like whenever I ask her if she wants to watch a movie, she always says, "Is it a scary movie?" And there's like some of my favorite directors, like The Shining is one of my favorite movies, and I've always been a big fan of John Carpenter and Wes Craven.
So what are you watching this Halloween season or month?
I don't know. I'm always looking for new movies. I haven't watched it yet. Weapons. I've heard some good things about that.
Yeah, I've heard about that too. That's on my list. I did finish watching The Conjuring Last Rites. It was good. Have you seen all the Conjuring movies? Yeah.
I haven't seen all of them.
Oh, okay. You have to catch up then. I mean, you don't have to see this one, but you kind of have to.
Well, my sister is also a big horror movie fan, so I get recommendations from her as well.
Wow, it runs in the family.
She sends me pictures every year of what she's dressing up as for Halloween, and I have to guess what movie it's from.
Amazing. Oh my gosh.
She surprised me this year. She caught me out. She's dressing as the little girl from Hereditary.
No.
Yes.
And
she's got like a little bird and the dress. Yeah.
That is creepy. Oh my gosh. That is
It is
so
very creepy. My sister likes very creepy things.
Wow. Well, what's creepy?
She has a bookcase. She has a bookcase in her house that's shaped like a coffin.
A what? A coffin? No way.
Yes.
I wish she had a picture or something. Wow. Wow, that's crazy. Is she on Instagram, like public, or no?
No, she's not really on social media.
Okay. Oh my gosh, that sounds so cool. That's something I need to have in my house or apartment. But what's creepy was the maze chase scenario in your game. So it's like, what choices did you make to keep the fear fresh and avoid it feeling like just another run from the killer game?
Well, the biggest thing was that with any kind of game, there has to be some kind of progression. It doesn't necessarily have to get harder, but the challenge has to change. And the best way to do that is introducing new mechanics or new enemies. So in the game, I decided every 10 levels, there should be some new complication. Like the first 10 levels, all you have to do is evade the killer. And because he's following you, you have to get back to the entrance, but you have to get around him, which means like doubling back or leaving more than one trail so that he might go the wrong way. But then after that, after the first 10 levels, there was a locked gate and you have to find the key somewhere inside the maze. And then after 10 levels of that, there's a new enemy. And then there are traps and then there's other enemies. So every 10 levels, it kind of changes up and introduces a new hazard that you have to look out for. And the thing that really made the game come together for me was when I added the lighting system. Because the early version of the game, it was all just like you could see everything. It was more of an arcade game, and it only really became a horror game or I added the light system. So most of the map is in shadows, and you don't always know what's around the next corner. You don't know how close the killer is. Unless sometimes if he's close enough, you can hear his footsteps. That was another thing I changed as well. Initially, you could hear his footsteps all the time, but then I figured out how to change it so that you could only hear the footsteps when he was within a certain distance. So then things that can make it more suspenseful. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, well, it was definitely creepy. And so if you were cooking up this game, since we're still in the creepy kitchen, if you're cooking up this game sphere in a pot, what would it taste like? Would it be bitter, icy, metallic, or,
I
what would it
think
taste like?
it would have to be icy because of the snow. Icy and maybe a little bitter as well.
I agree. I agree. So now we're going to delve into the Library of Shadows, and I just want to know, like horror games, films, and other like art haunted you. Like, what other art haunted you when you were designing this? Like, were you drawing from classic slasher films? I know you mentioned The Shining, and any other
Yeah.
stuff that incorporate into the game, like survival horror games or something more abstract in addition to The Shining. How did that all?
Well, this some things I got ideas from in terms of the ending of the game. I don't really want to spoil it for anyone. I kind of tried to tell the story in a very abstract way, so there's no text explaining what's happening. There is kind of a story as you progress through the game. Like at one point, a house appears in the maze, and you can walk into the front door, and then you don't see what's inside. And then later on, the house appears again, and you can go inside and go into the first floor. And then as the game progresses more and more, you can go up. And that was where I was trying to put more of a supernatural spin on it. And I would say that it was kind of that elements of that were kind of influenced by the Hellraiser movies. Some of those I really like. Most of the sequels, they're not very good, but they have some interesting ideas in.
Right. Right. The first one's always the best.
Yeah, first one is terrific. I really liked the reboot that they did a couple of years ago. I thought that was really good.
The series on Hulu.
No, did they do a series? They did a movie. I didn't know they'd done a series as well.
Oh, then maybe it was the movie. I know they did
I think it
something
was
on
a movie.
Hulu
Yeah, it
with
was a movie.
Hellraiser. And the Hellraiser
Yeah,
wasn't
it
a
might
guy, it
have
was
been
a
the
woman.
movie.
Okay.
Yeah, they changed. It was a new actress playing the lead Cenobite, Pinhead.
Mhm. Yeah.
But
So
yeah, that was a good movie.
no, that I mean, Hellraiser is just
Mhm.
like a classic of mine. I was so scared of Pinhead
Yeah.
for many, many years. But the visual aesthetic in your game, like the top down 2D snow footprints, like
Mm.
what inspired you to pick that style rather than like first person or more realistic 3D?
Well, the main thing with that is really my limitations because I've done everything in the game myself. I'm a solo developer. I did all of the coding apart from a couple of assets that I used that I found in a store. But it was pretty much all done by myself. I had to watch a lot of tutorials as well because I didn't really know anything about programming before I started making it. I did all the artwork myself. So like all of the characters walking around, I animated that. And I did the music as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I
Wow.
studied music in school, but I didn't do it for very long and I wasn't very good at it. But I learned some of the basics of composition, like choosing a key signature and chords and then some very basic stuff. But it was enough to do the music because like with horror music especially and like recently it's a lot more about texture than melody, just like creepy sound, like a sustained chord, and you just really have to pick the right synthesizer setting to get the right spooky sound, and that's basically it.
Dan, so you didn't need to go to finish class. You were just a natural born horror Mozart.
Yes.
So the studio name, like, it's so fascinating. Like, Monkeys Might Puke has character. Like, when I saw like your
Yes.
game being submitted, and like, what's the story behind that name, and does it feed back into your design philosophy?
Well, it came so I got it into comics before I got into making games. I used to do a self-published humor comic. The name of the comic was Monkeys Might Puke, just because I wanted something that was kind of ridiculous and memorable. I think I was in 2005 when I started doing the comic. I was printing it at home, taking it to conventions to try and sell it, and it was just I just realized it's a unique phrase. Like it's not like a cliche. So if you Google that phrase, I'm the only thing that comes up, which makes it useful to keep using it. And people remember it as well. Like if I've emailed people because I have the website, monkeysmightpuke.com, although I don't really have anything up there at the moment, which means I can use that as my email address. And I've emailed people and they've replied back. And sometimes the first thing they write is that this is really cool that I'm emailing someone whose email is dan@monkeysmightpuke.com. So it's something that stands out and is memorable. So that's the good reason for me to keep using it. And
Awesome.
in terms of what it
Awesome.
actually means, I can't really remember. I came up with the phrase in a pub with a friend, but I can't remember the context.
My gosh. Well, it
So
doesn't matter
I
because it's
think,
stuck.
yeah, yeah, it's stuck with me. So it's always worth using. It's always worth using something that sticks in your head.
Yes, it's memorable too. It's awesome.
Mm,
So
yeah.
now we're going into the basement stairs, and this is where you reveal any industry secrets or lessons. And like, what's one production secret or design hack behind Deadly Footprints that you've never tell your players, but you can tell the house?
Okay. Well, I mean, this is something that I think all game devs need to hear, which is when you're making a game, you need to get people playing it as soon as possible. When I was first started making this game, I made 10 levels as a test and I was playing through them and I was worried that they were too easy. And I gave them to some friends to try and nobody could get past level 3. It was way too hard. So, and I needed to get other people to play it for me to realize that, because obviously as the designer, I know how everything in the game works. So for me, it seemed easy. So it's important to get people to play the game because you don't necessarily see it the way that a player sees it. And like, I could watch the way that people play it as well. Like I used to have, one of the ways that I got testers for my game is that I have a projector in my home and I would invite friends over for movie nights on the projector. But before I put the movie on, I would force them to play the game. And then I could watch them and see what choices they make and see how they were different from the choices I made and see how I could factor that into the game design. But I also used to go to a local game designer meetup where there'd be lots of people there with their computers and you can go around and everyone tries each other's games and you can give each other feedback. That was really useful as well. So like, that would be something else I would recommend for any game developers is if there's something like that in your area, you should go to it. Even if you don't have a game, you can go there and meet people and see what other people are working on.
That's smart. So was there any
Mm.
advice that you got that was just it was kind of hard for you to hear because you developed your game, that's your baby, but like because of the advice you had to like really change a lot of things or no?
Well, the best thing about that was actually that most of the feedback I got was really positive. There was one guy
Okay.
that was playing the game and he just said to me, "Oh, you're going to have to pull this away from me," because he didn't want to stop playing it. There was the one negative feedback I got was initially the levels were bigger. So the mazes were bigger. And one guy said that sometimes the killer starts walking back to the entrance of the maze and you've got to wait for him to walk all the way back and then back into the maze again. And he said it would be good if there was something you could do to like turn him around, like throw a snowball at him. And I actually managed to solve that a different way. I've managed to change because the levels are a bit smaller, but also I changed it so that if he goes somewhere where he has a clear line of sight between himself and the entrance and you're not there, then instead of walking all the way to the entrance, he just turns around. But sometimes someone will tell you a problem and they'll give you a solution that might not necessarily be the right solution, but it still pushes you in the right direction.
That's that's great. That's like great
Yeah.
advice. And you're almost about to leave the basement, but I like to do this lightning round where I'll ask you
Okay.
several questions and before you sprint back up the stairs, you have to answer them the first thing that comes to your mind. So, your
Okay.
favorite horror game ever made.
Resident Evil 2, the remake.
One game mechanic you wish you used in Deadly Footprints but didn't.
Well, I actually wish I'd used the snowball. I have figured out how to use it. I'm going to make some extra content that I'm probably going to release this Halloween if I have time. Are going to be some extra Halloween themed levels where there are skeletons in the level, and one of the skeletons has the key hidden inside them. So then you have to throw the snowballs at the skeletons to smash them into a pile of bones to see which one has the key. So I haven't used that yet, but I will for the extra content.
Oh my gosh, well when you do, let us know. I mean, we'll like
Yeah,
promote
I
it on
will.
our socials and stuff to tell people to check it
Of
out. So,
course.
Dan's like, once you're selected in the festival, you're forever a house guest. So you have to just keep us posted on
Okay.
everything. So, snow or darkness,
Okay.
which scares you more as a game environment?
Darkness.
Mm,
If you're in a dark area and you have a torch and the light from the torch is only like a very narrow area and you can't really see what's around in your peripheral vision.
yeah. Okay. I'm just trying to picture that while you're telling me. So
Yeah,
if you were
especially if you
chased,
can hear something moving around as well. That makes it much worse.
much, much worse. So if you were
Yeah.
chased through a maze in real life, What would you leave behind so the killer can't follow you?
What would I leave behind? I suppose it would depend what I have on me. I think I could probably confuse them by leaving my pants behind.
Then you'd be cold. How do
Yeah,
you
I would be
run?
cold, but then I don't know if that would give me an advantage. It would make me want to move faster to keep warm, so it could
Yeah,
help.
it could help. And
Yeah.
finally, what scares you more, bugs in the code or bugs in your house at night?
Bugs in the code, because bugs in my house I know how to deal with.
Got it. Dan has reached the basement. I mean, came up from the basement, and now we're in the attic hall. And this is where we talk about what's pulling you forward, Dan. So, what project or idea do you have? Like, what's the next terrifying thing you want to make after this game? And I know you have some updates, like you just mentioned, but what's the next
Hmm.
project that you have coming up?
Okay, well, I have a bunch of ideas for games. One of the ones I want to start making probably early next year, I had this idea. It's kind of inspired by Macbeth. You play like a lord in a medieval land, and you sneak into castles of your political opponents to assassinate them so that you can become king. So it's
Nice.
basically like a stealth assassination game. I've actually been doing a lot of research into castles, and I've been doing some paintings of castles as like warm-ups.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
this one is my wife's favorite. I can't remember where this castle is. I have this big coffee table book that's just photos of
Wow.
castles, and I'm picking out the cool ones and doing paintings. And
So
I
those look
bought a few
like
books.
nice. Those look like nice castles, but I'm like, where's the dungeon?
Well, this one is a bit more sinister. It depends on the lighting. I had the idea as well that the design of each castle will reflect the personality of whoever lives in it. So there'd be one guy who's maybe very gregarious and he always has parties and the castle is big and has lots of people. And then there'd be someone else who's very paranoid and this castle will be like a tall, narrow castle that's hard to get into.
Wow. So are there any like game mechanics or art styles that you're looking to use in this new game that you haven't used before?
Well, in Deadly Footprints, there's a lighting system, wooden torches, so maybe you can put out the torches as well to create more shadow to hide in. It's very
Awesome.
influenced by the Thief games. I don't know if you've ever
Nice.
played those, but they have that mechanic where you can shoot water arrows at torches to put them out, so there's more darkness to hide in.
No, I haven't played, but I've heard of it though. Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds so awesome. Wow. Hopefully that's the next game in the Haunted House Fear Fest
Okay.
festival. Now, so now we're going to enter the final room. And here, Dan, you tell us what is the creepiest thing that's ever happened to you and what's the coolest thing that's ever happened to you?
Okay. Well, the creepiest thing that's ever happened to me, scariest like at all, was when I was 18, me and two friends went traveling around Europe. We got train tickets that you can use like throughout three countries. We had like France and Italy and Greece. And when we were in France, there was one night where one of my friends left his money belt in a restaurant. So I offered to go back with him to get it. But by the time we found the restaurant, the subway had closed and there weren't any taxis around and we weren't really sure of the exact address for the hostel that we were staying at. So we ended up walking back and I think it took 3 or 4 hours. So we were walking across, this was in Paris, walking across Paris in the middle of the night, like after 11. Eventually it was like 1 or 2 in the morning by the time we got home. And there was one point we met some really interesting people that night. There was a Canadian guy who was in full clown makeup. But yeah, just walking around the street at 1 o'clock in the morning. And then at one point, we also ran into this big gang of skinheads. They came over and they started talking to us. And I don't speak that much French, but one of them was saying things like, "Est-ce que tu avais le hashish? Do you have any marijuana?" And I was like saying no. And then he was like, "Oh, est-ce que tu avais le he's asking if you have any money." And he started putting his hand on my back. And I was thinking, oh, he's checking for a money belt. So I thought we were about to get robbed. And meanwhile, my friend Ben I was trying to stay calm, but my friend Ben was talking to another guy and my friend Ben was just getting angry and making the guy that he was talking to was getting angry as well. And it was just a really scary, tense situation. But then 3 other people who were just walking out at night came around the corner as well. And they saw us and they came over and then the skinheads just went away. So we had a very
Wow.
lucky escape, but that was a very worrying moment for us.
Yeah, very lucky. Wow. Oh my goodness. Wow, very lucky. So, on a lighter note, what was the coolest thing that's ever happened to you?
The coolest thing would be when I was at a comic convention and an artist that I really like came over and started looking at my comic and said some really nice things about it. It was my first comic convention as well. And the artist was a guy called Glenn Dakin. He's done a couple of books as like autobiographical comics, and I had his book, and I mentioned that to him, and then he said some really nice things about my book as well. So that was really cool. That was like my first validation as an artist from another artist.
Yeah, that's always cool. It's good when
Yeah.
your fellow artists recognize your work, and that's amazing. Wow, Dan. Well, Dan has survived the house, and this concludes our interview. Dan, thank you for stepping inside our haunted house and sharing the chilling footprints of your world with us. And guys, check out Dan's game on Steam's Deadly Footprints. It is one of the nominees for the Haunted House Fear Fest Festival. The award ceremony will be virtually, definitely across Twitch on November 2nd. Dan, I'll share an email and post the time. It's just me and just my social media manager. So it's a lot going on, but I'm hoping everyone's enjoying the festival, and I'll definitely share the dates publicly and everything else and the times. But thank you so much for joining the Creepy Cool podcast. Want more chills and chatter? We're streaming on all podcast platforms.